And we're back with part 3 of the Melbourne Punters Show, brought to you by MLA. Don't lamb alone this Australia Day. Got to get a plug in for the farmers.
Incidentally, the new ad's good, but the clubhouse leader, if you haven't seen it, the Melissa Counts, I'm a Barney girl, that's the best ever that Keke did. Best ever.
Yeah, and it's a great campaign, so make sure you throw some lamb on the barbie on Tuesday. Boys, Cobolt, and the latest one is the ibuprofen. It's been dragging on forever and a day. Looks like it's going to keep going. We've probably got another 2 courthouses probably to get through. I know, I'm bored stiff with it.
I actually learned something last time we did this.
Yeah.
I went to say something about the Cobolt or some issue, whatever. And the glass eye, I got 6 glass eyes from the 3 collectively. And you know what, it actually reminded me that most punters actually couldn't give a flying fuck about what's going on here.
No, I thought it did sit.
Do you reckon?
Nauseating.
Well, the interest to me is when I hear these positives coming up months after the fact, I remember back and go, oh yeah, I remember that horse being really heavily backed. Like I remember Darragh being really heavily backed Ballarat Cup Day. I remember Danny Jet being really heavily backed at Sandown. I remember Bondiga being really heavily backed at Flemington one day. You know, all these horses. I think, wow, I wonder why. You know, they run above expectations or whatever, and then you sort of get some sort of explanation. You go, okay, that's interesting.
Well,
but whether that was the reason or not, I've got no clue. But you know, often these horses, you know, there's a correlation between the betting and the subsequent positive.
In cricket terms, we'll stay within the V, and just so we don't get sued and keep our own houses and whatever we do own. But just go on facts. Where it is different, Sydney to Melbourne, in other words, the big Sydney case to the big Melbourne case, in general, Potts, those Melbourne horses were not heavily backed. I live and breathe markets as you do. There wasn't big support for Ladari, other than the type of spec stuff that we saw. Bullpin was not heavily supported. I was on it at Moonee Valley when I won. And it certainly wasn't heavily supported. In fact, I was thinking, I'd love to see a bit more support. I'm already on, as you do once you're on. There was Bondiga, a bit of support, but as a stayer. The one that I think...
It was heavily backed to start previous, which, God knows.
I know the ratings blokes did somersaults over the Little Engine, and smart ratings blokes, and I would never doubt their knowledge, but isn't the floor in ratings margin? And by that I mean, if the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th horse all go like shit, which is possible, then you're going to get an inflated figure. The Little Engine when it bolted in at Ballarat, which is what had everyone's, not everyone in quotation marks, that what's this on type reaction. Well, it bolted in a benchmark 70, where the 2nd, 3rd and 4th horses did go like crap, and I think they were all tipped out for a spell. And since then, it definitely went better when it won at Flemington on Cup Day this year, sort of 2015, over 2800. So all it was a emerging stayer getting to a new level, and the sit's gone on.
Except it tested positive. Except.
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying, when the story first came out in January, I think Daniel O'Sullivan contributed to the Herald Sun and said, well, this was a big spike and that was a big spike, and they were. But
progressive 3-year-olds.
So you started this with the point that somehow that these horses weren't as heavily backed in Melbourne as some of the cases in Sydney were. I don't know if that's true. I bet in both states at the time, and a lot of those horses that have subsequently tested positive in Sydney. So some were.
No, but the Sam Kavanagh runners at the time.
So the Sam Kavanagh ones. Okay, you're particularly about the Kavanagh ones. I was talking about the what's our mate that got 14 years or whatever he got.
Darren Smith.
Darren Smith.
Yeah.
Well, I was just bashing it with him, though, wasn't it?
But they were backed.
They were registering 6,000 names and all this.
So test a rhythm at Scone, for instance.
No, but let's.
I remember running second to it. I remember running second that day. I can't remember which horse I backed, and then thought, God, how did Testerism do that?
And your bloke, you would have ended up with the race, and you've done your money.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, to me, that. Similar things. I thought, how did that happen? And then subsequently this comes out and you go, oh, now
I was on there with Vince at the time, so doing Melbourne, Sydney, but don't study Sydney. Vince obviously does, you do. And we'd back announced and we were just laughing, and Daniel O'Sullivan at the time actually was quite active on Twitter saying, well, look, we'll just update our Sam Kavanagh stats now. Now, they were heavily backed. Now this is fact, and all we can do is go on facts. It tested positive to Cobolt and caffeine, those horses, and they were heavily backed. The Melbourne horses haven't tested positive to caffeine, and they weren't heavily backed.
But
Now,
I don't think it's about the punt though, is it? Like Ladari was in a Group 1, Bondi was in a Group 1, was in the Derby, Ladari was in the Turnbull. I don't think, I don't think it's about the punt.
No, it's a factor.
It's a factor with us, it's what they go looking for, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be.
I don't agree with your point, Raph, that they weren't heavily backed. Like some of them may not have been, and a lot of them didn't shorten a lot.
Well,
But I'm saying there have been a number of horses that there was big volume for, that were, to me, it stuck in my memory how much volume there was for them.
Yeah.
You know, in the O'Sullivan cases at two.
I'll only tell you about the
Two
ones
point.
that are up now. And if I can just, Narc Central, I can't explain this 140 characters, so I'll use this for them here. I'm not defending anyone, because like all of us, we're just after the result.
Yeah.
What I am defending, or wish happens, is that we don't lose two very good trainers, two outstanding trainers in Moody and O'Brien. At the moment, what's damning Mark Kavanagh, now this could be circumstantial or not, and in time, and they're going to appeal, this will happen, but at the moment what's damning as far as public perception is, one, obviously his son in Sydney, and two, he's not training the winners that he was training 5 years ago.
Not a patch. 2
and 2 doesn't always equal 4, but at the moment...
I want to add the third part to that, the vet connection with what was happening with his son in Sydney as well.
Absolutely. So in time, that'll all play out. But all I know is, if I backed second bullet, and I did, I was very happy that it was trained by Danny O'Brien. I saw you put out on Twitter once about Peter Moody. Well, I'm prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. For 15 years, his horses have raced consistently. I just hope that in this zeal of catching everyone and convicting everyone, that we don't lose really good trainers from the sport who get their horses to race consistently. By extension, there's this myopic thing of we need to get a level playing field. Could you just tell me what would be a level playing field outside of Hong Kong?
So before you go on to the next point, I want to touch on that first point. I agree with you totally. I do not want to lose Peter Moody, do not want to lose Danny O'Brien, and I don't want to lose Mark Kavanagh.
And if they choose,
I think what the authorities need to do is look at what is driving this issue. How did it happen? What has caused this to happen? And I think they need to take some lessons from what happened in the Tour de France for a decade and what's happened with sporting departments at football clubs and that sort of thing. And they need to shed some light on the people hiding in the background in the shadows. That's where the problem is. It's not really the front men that are copping it here, the trainers. I think it's the people in the background in the shadows that are the real issue. And if racing wants to get on top of this problem, because it's not absolutely the trainers that are in the gun here, to me, are just they're almost it's by accident. You know what I mean? Like the core of the problem. Access to horses for people that should not have access to horses. And that's what they need to stop.
I think that's what they're going to battle when they go to VCAT and the next levels, is that not so much the presentation at the races where you're meant to be drug free, they're prepared to wear that, but the administration charges are the ones that they're really keen to fight.
Now, I assume this is a fact. It was in the newspaper, and I'm not saying as a smart ass, I assume this is a fact. So Peter Moody went to the stewards to try and get an outcome. And the steward said, no, we want to go through this. Do you think that's a flaw? I think it's a big flaw. For this reason, I back from Melbourne Footy Club. We pissed ourselves laughing during the end of 2010 when somehow we managed to lose a couple of games we shouldn't have won. Oh, and then we get the number 1 draft pick. There's a tanking, I don't know if it was tanking, but everyone was laughing about it. Gil McLaughlin goes in, shuts the door, and by the time he leaves, the club gets fined $500,000 for not tanking. A couple of people get suspended in and out of the club. And then we get an outcome. Now, they could have kicked Melbourne out of the competition had they gone a certain way. Instead, they didn't. They got an outcome. And you know what they did 6 months ago? They signed a TV deal for $2.5 billion. Now, let's say if Moody went to them and said, well, my procedures weren't up to scratch, which seems to be the case. We can't account for every single injection in it, and I have to cop that. And they go, right, well, for that, we're going to give you 4 months, $200,000 fine. You're disqualified, and you have to wear that. And we'll maybe another 2 months, a bit like Ollie, that you get this amount of time and this amount to get training again, so you can hit the ground running when you're back. everyone's on notice. Don't fuck around with this anymore because we're serious. And then we don't lose Peter Moody to racing.
I would agree with all that. I would just add that they would say, right, let's get to the bottom of it and make
That's
sure
the
we put in place some procedures to just nip it in the bud.
That was the goal. The goal there.
And everyone would be happy. It's a disaster if we lose these trainers. It's a disaster.
If they negotiate, they say, now Pete, we will do this on the assumption you tell us everything.
Yeah.
And everything you know. And you go, well, why wouldn't I tell you everything I know? Because I could get 3 years and out and my career's finished, or I'll get 4 to 6 months or whatever, and it's a setback, but you can recover from that. I don't know how these blokes can recover from 3 years. And I repeat, if they knowingly cheated, well, they have to cop their right whack. So I'm not defending it, but I am saying that for what, as we all seem to be, there's people behind the scenes, there's various other situations. If they would go, oh, well, about like 3 or 4 years, fuck off. It's just not good.
Yeah. So can I just add, so just on that point, with Terry and Corinne O'Sullivan ones, okay, on the day that Darragh, they announced that it had tested positive for Cobolt at Ballarat, he was training at Stawell and was interviewed on racing.com. And he spoke like passionately how you'd have to be absolutely mad to administer Cobolt, and as far as he's concerned, it didn't happen. And my honest opinion is, and it's just an opinion, is I absolutely believe him. I believe the mistake he probably made, it's a guess, is he probably allowed someone access to his horse that he shouldn't have.
It's a plugged into fifth with this 1,301 sample, 600 in the other sample. It's dead set. I don't know if there's any scientific studies, but it's half quite mythical the improvement that it's spoke, for the 3-year penalty, equaling the myth of this EPO sort of thing, that it's just making them jump out of the ground. I mean, all the things Shannon hopes when they got buckled for, I looked at their results, best suggestion, all that, it ran 8th, Darragh plugged into 5th.
So what we've got is the least performance enhancer in the history of medicine.
Well,
it's not. Who's it enhancing?
Well, the answer to those questions, who knows? And I'm not disagreeing with anything that Dan just said there. I'm just saying that the issue, I'm agreeing with you, Ralph. I'm saying the stewards and the authorities have to get past this idea of just taking victims, right, and destroying the careers of some great trainers, and they have to get to the root of the problem and clean it up and say, right, what was causing that is taken care of. So these Cobolt hearings and the Sam Kavanagh thing and all of it has shed some light on some of the relationships vets have had with...
That's been the best thing that was you said on the last show, vets and their practices,
So
which is pushing the boundaries.
Their practices of not knowing what was even in the vitamin complex and whatever else.
It's Essendon all over again, isn't it?
Exactly.
Pushing the boundaries of sports science till you tip over the edge
and
get buckled.
The point I didn't make when we did that last show that I meant to make is that the other really interesting part for me that came to light in those hearings is at least one of these vets, if not 2 of them, were betting in significant amounts.
That's right.
So that the industry's got to ask itself: do we want vets that are betting in significant amounts having access to horses and not having them licensed? Is that what we want?
Well, they want the vets licensed, I think, don't they?
Well, I think in an ideal world that's what they want.
At the end of the day, Dan, as far as I'm aware, the vets aren't running this industry, and if they're not prepared to toe the line and do what racing wants of them, well, racing has to find vets that will.
That's right, and they will. It's the biggest fill-up in the world being a racing horse racing vet. You get bills from them, and horse trainers.
I'm sick of these vets calling the shots. I mean, fair income, go to hell. Honestly, the trainers would be better off without them.
So there is a secondary point here, and this is one area, if I'm head wobble or Leo Wanker style or not, I am an expert in, because I've come from that background and tried to learn hook racing form as opposed to you guys going form and starting to do some media. I've been in high pressure media, as Dan knows, and big outcomes, and you see the end result of these things. For 12 months, our sport has been dragged through the fucking mud. Now, we have some kind of idea about the sport, we live and breathe it, and we read, well, maybe this would happen, maybe this would happen. Our sport's nothing if we don't have once a year, twice a year punters, if it's go to the picnics, if it's going to the Melbourne Cup, if it's going because their mate's horse is running, saying, well, it's a good sport. They look at that and they go, racing cheats, and they just move on.
What a joke yesterday was. Like, seriously, we all knew it was coming up. We all knew they were going to get 3 years. It's a mandatory sentence. It was just like they're going to get 3 years and we just move on till they go to VCAT, then they go somewhere else. Well, it was first story on the news, it's on the bloody back page of the paper.
Again, so then the crazy part of it, like just a crazy component of all that, was everyone knew exactly what was going to happen. Everyone knew exactly what was going to happen. And then they crossed to racing.com at Geelong and they go, so now we're not sure whether this horse in race 4 and this horse in race 5 are going to run.
I wanted a betting race too. It was, is this horse running or isn't it? And then you can find out half an hour before the race whether you're going to cop a 40-cent deduction or not if you bet early.
So again, the end result of this, and it goes back to what you said before, if you have a mindset of not getting an outcome and wanting everyone to go through every single process and let's nail these people to the wall, you are going to get years and years of this happening.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, boys, we know you fucked up, we need to get a result here, we need you to plead guilty, we need you to tell us what you know from the vets, this is assuming they are guilty, don't take my house, all these things, and get it all on the table and then get an outcome so that we can knock this on the head. And this is not personal against Terry Bailey, but when he was at the trots, Blue Magic, back page headlines. Now, 10 years later, how's the trots going?
Is it going?
Correct. And you couldn't get a back page headline with the trots now. There's just nothing that could happen.
Yeah, well,
certainly not a good news one like Michelle Payne winning the Melbourne Cup, like we can still get. You can't just keep wheeling out story after story about cheating trainers and look how much we're testing and we're going to find formaldehyde or Bryce Stanaway's drugs that they found on his premises that he was giving to his 19-year-old pony. I mean, fucking hell, let's try and bring things back a bit and say, if we catch you, we will smash you, and then that's it. But until that, we're going to work undercover and do our best. But all this, the gotcha squad and all that.
We don't care.
We don't care.
We just want to back winners. If you cheat, you'll get caught. The Racing Integrity Unit and spending tens of millions of dollars a year, that's your job. Catch them, penalise them, get it done and dusted quickly.
Yeah.
Wasn't that
We've got this issue with...
Don't tell us about the pregnancy, just bring us the baby.
That's it.
If you got one,
Yeah.
don't tell us about it.
It's hard enough finding out. I had one the other day. I had a bet in a race 6 months ago. I didn't even know. And then I saw the horse I backed was in with a 1 beside its name. I said, what? How's that happen?
You filthy!
I'm going back, positive swab to the winner.
Yeah.
I had a heap on it, $9, I don't know how much it cost me.
What's the right country then?
So we had this, the Cobolt thing is under a huge cloud in terms of how performance enhancing it is.
Yes.
So I with you, Ralph, I don't understand why the steward just didn't get all the trainers in and say, this has come up,
yes,
we need to tidy it up. But to do that, we need to get to the bottom of it and find out exactly who supplied it to you, how it was administered. So it's an amnesty, whatever you want to do, just get the whole thing taken care of so it's out of the game.
As opposed to telling the Herald Sun, clean the spring card of lever when you are waiting to decide if you're going to...
So I'll give you an example of the problem with what the mess we've created is, okay? Lee and Shannon Hope got one of the horses in on Saturday, Choose, and I'm not sure whether her form's real or not real, whether it had any effect or not.
Spot on.
It's very hard to know how to treat those horses. I know the boys in Sydney had all
it's
sorts of trouble with Centre
Pivot
early in its prep. It's ended up getting back to that level subsequently in Queensland, but so it's a very tricky business.
But if you picked up today's Herald Sun, you'd never have another bet again. You've got the front page where it's all blasted about how the in-play betting on the tennis, and then Tom Waterhouse can find trouble with his advertising campaigns.
Not that I'm a tennis fan, but I'm not watching it out of principle.
Oh, it's
just imagine having William Hill shoved down your throat every 5 minutes. Fair income.
And then you turn to the back page of the paper where the trainers have got 3 years, and you just go, well,
and you know what?
Maybe
this wraps it up, but maybe getting back to what Dan said, just look at the form, do your form, and then don't get head fucked by everything else that's said around.
That's absolutely right. And as a punter, you have to be aware.
Yeah.
And you have to. You never have complete information. You have to read the tea leaves, look for certain patterns in stables, and do your best.
I think the other thing that I've noticed is both with the tennis thing and with the racing thing, is that the level of journalism is at an absolute all-time low. Because you saw some of the stuff that the BBC guys and all that put up, like some of it was copy and paste stuff from the article in 2008, and a mate of ours in Scotty Ferguson he ripped them apart. And it's like, what are you blokes talking about? It's like that they love putting this sensation. The front page article of the Herald Sun today basically said there's a lot of William Hill ads on, and they've found a loophole in the in-play betting. That's not news.
In fairness to the journalists. As if I stick up for the journalists. No.
They're just, it's just...
So is there any point of even discussing the ibuprofen thing other than to say, I think we're heading down the track with that they should have gone down with Cobolt. So it seems to me like all a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
So they're getting the trainers in, they're talking to them, and I would be surprised if the penalties here are harsh. I think they'll be on the... They'll try and just get an outcome, as you said before, Ralph. Get everyone in, find out what's behind it, sort it out and go, okay, this is how we're going to do it.
In the meantime, second bullet would have been $4.80 and $1.80, and one of the greatest each-way bets of all time if Synos was in the race and it was scratched. So for self-interest, I'm shattered.
Well,
yeah.
The one question I've got to
It's
do
all
with...
about us.
That's right. No one else cares about it.
I
More about ourselves.
want to collect my winning ticket on Ladari now.
Well, the only question that I have with both Cobolt and ibuprofen, and something that I've been thinking about, is it possible that they are masking agents?
Well, they're on the ban list for reasons, aren't they? Who knows?
Yeah, so...
Can we make an agreement that this is the last time we talk about Cobolt if we do?
Oh, please.
Hallelujah.
I think that'll do us for this week, guys. If you've got any feedback, at RT Ralphie on Twitter, at WinBetDan on Twitter, and I'm at the Picnics on Twitter, and email in the show. Any questions, anything you want us to talk about, let us know. Until next time, guys, we'll see you then.
Thanks, everyone.